Hi, Nigel. So it's now been 19 days since the 5 grooming gang survivors who you misrepresented in your press conference demanded an apology for you. That's 19 days that they've been waiting because you still haven't given an apology. That's 19 days that the media have let you off the hook. Although, only 4 days until Nathan Gill gets sentenced and we will know exactly what he did and how he helped Russia. Huge kudos to your MSP up in Scotland, who has said what the rest of us realised ages ago. You've only got 2 policies, immigration and get rid of net stupid zero, as Deputy Dick says. Speaking of dicks, wasn't it odd that GB News, the channel that you're on, the channel that you own shares in, wasn't it odd that today they billed Captain Chaos, the head of Kent Council, Reform's Kent Council, Lyndon, they billed her as the ex-BBC journalist as opposed to one of yours. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on. It was a Monday, so it was Deputy Dick's turn this week to hold a press conference, though it feels like people are getting a bit bored of them. But don't worry, because GB News will cover all of it. Freddie's brother was very upfront about it and said that what Dick was trying to do, other than be one, was to reset the media's narrative about how great you guys are doing in charge of councils. I mean, it is quite a strong narrative to try to reset, isn't it? And I would suggest, if you want to reset a narrative, be better. But hey, there's nothing wrong with gaslighting everybody. Given that Reform previously promised that they were going to lower people's council tax and in fact have raised the council tax in the areas that they're in charge of, Deputy Dick stood up again today to tell us how they were going to do the thing that they haven't already done. Now, as ever, the conference took the same sort of form as all the others. It made a statement, didn't back it up, and then said it was going to solve it without solving anything, which is indicative of the level of critical thinking skills that both you and the members of your cult with an L have. See, have we seen a rise in SEN children in schools? Probably since about 2020, since COVID. The answer is a resounding yes. So the question really a critical thinker should be asking is, why is that? Is it just that people are better equipped to identify the symptoms, or is there something else going on? But good for you guys, because you cut through all of that shit and just went, well, we don't believe it. It's an overdiagnosis. It's as simple as that. And I guess to the members of the cult with an L, that is actually what they want to hear. They don't want to hear that maybe there's something going on. They genuinely just want to hear it'll be okay if we just pretend it hasn't happened. It's a little bit like the climate crisis. It's the same theory that you use for that. Deputy Dick said there's nothing wrong with these kids, that it's basically parents, taxi firms and psychologists ripping them off. Whilst busy riffing, having a little joke with everybody about his unsubstantiated claim that there are more SEN children in some schools than children without additional needs, he went on to say that the children without additional needs joke about the fact that they're the odd ones out because they are normal. I'm just going to let that sit there for a little while for people that have got critical thinking faculties to really understand how abhorrent that phrase was. But he quickly rode it back to say, actually, it's been unfair to the kids that really do have SEN because they're being penalised because other kids are just gaming the system. Now, far be it from me to suggest that Deputy Dick was speaking out of his arse, but actually, Deputy Dick was completely speaking out of his arse. As the parent of 2 children with additional needs, let me just let you know, Nigel, it's really hard to get a diagnosis of anything. And in fact, it took 3 years for one child to get a diagnosis, and it took a couple of years for another child to get a diagnosis. And then once they do get a diagnosis, you still have to wait sometimes for months and even up to a year to try to get the correct treatment for that child if a treatment is available. And the assumption that if the child then gets that diagnosis, it gets an EHCP, which is the thing that really pisses you off, because an EHCP means that the school will get some additional funds to cover the additional help that that child needs. I have one child with an EHCP, but it took me 3 attempts to appeal in order for my child to get the support that they desperately needed in order to thrive at school as opposed to just survive. And my other child doesn't stand a chance of getting an EHCP, whereas in reality, they would also probably benefit from some additional help. Now, we're very lucky because our school gives our child additional help, but that comes at a cost to the school, and the school haven't got any money. And as for them being overdiagnosed with dyslexia, well, I have a child who potentially has dyslexia. I believe all the signs are there. However, can I get them to be diagnosed? Absolutely not. Not unless I pay private to get that diagnosis. Am I in a position to get that diagnosis? Absolutely not. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you can just help me to, in your words, game the system so that my children, and indeed all the other children that have some additional needs, actually get the support they need, which is funded by authorities, not by the schools that are already running at deficits because of underfunding after years of Tory neglect. Well, I think myself and other parents would really appreciate that, because, to be honest, it's a little bit of an uphill struggle in the UK at the moment to get help for a child that has additional needs. And here's the bit that is way beyond your comprehension, because actually it takes a degree of intelligence to work this bit out. Okay, so here's the bit that you're not going to grasp because you haven't got the basic intelligence and critical thinking skills to work it out. So let me help you out a little bit. If we want our children, whether they are SEN or otherwise, to thrive in school and be a success, and that success can look like anything. It can look like becoming a teacher, a scientist, a rocket scientist, working in a shop, a cleaner, whatever it is, to give our children the best chance to earn a living for themselves and to be independent in this world. We have to give them the toolkit in order to help them right now when they're at school. But if we don't give our children additional support to help them to thrive, well, then they get left behind. And if they get left behind, eventually, guys, they're going to be part of the welfare system. That'll be the welfare system that you abhor, the welfare system that you say people on that are gaming it. You see, investing in children's future pays back dividends, both economically, to society, to the community. Or to put it simply for you, it was as short-sighted and as flawed as every other policy that you announce on a Monday. Oh, and before I go, it's very clever framing what the Home Secretary said today as being akin to what you guys say. Because, of course, a lot of people on the left are abhorred by what she said today. So you've played into that narrative nicely for them. Except that nobody seems to be talking about the fact that she also said that finally the government would be providing safe and legal routes for asylum seekers. I guess, to be fair, you're working off the assumption that people aren't really over the detail about stuff, so you can miss that part out. Or probably, even more importantly, you are never over the detail of the stuff, so you probably did miss that part out. But hey, I look forward to tomorrow's press conference where you try to control the narrative one more time, give out some sound bites that members of the cult with an L just believe because they have no critical thinking skills, but then we discover that you didn't have them either, and everybody will tell us why the policies won't work. But here's an idea. You'll have the press around you again, just like you did 3 weeks ago when you lied about the grooming gang survivors. So maybe you could have some accountability, develop a little bit of a conscience, and give them the apology that they so richly deserve, as you were.